Hi, I'm Emma Edwards, back with a new episode of So What, the energy podcast that aims to break things down and help you with tips on how you can take control of your energy. This season, we're tackling some of the ways you can electrify your home, reduce your emissions, and importantly, help save on your energy bills. In the last couple of episodes, we've talked about electrification assets at home, like solar, home batteries, and the growing role EVs can play. But you might have heard a thing or two about community batteries. So what are they, you might ask? And how can they benefit you? Here with me to help explain that today is David Gilligan, Origin's Head of Network and Community Batteries. David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Emma. Pleased to be here.
Let's start with a simple opener to begin with, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper. What is a community battery?
Community batteries mean so many things to so many people, but the way I think of it, essentially, it's like a battery that you'll have in a torch or one of your 12 remotes that you might have around your lounge room. It's a bigger version of that. It sits on your street, and it gets charged from the network to fill it up with energy, and then it discharges that energy back out into the network to support energy around in the evenings. I think about it like a bit of a bank, actually. So you can put money into the bank, a bit of a community bank, and then you can draw that money out. It's a bit like it's an energy bank. Energy goes in, it holds that energy for a bit, and then you can pull that energy out, and everyone can benefit from that.
So how big of a community is one battery serving?
There varies. It depends on the size of the battery. So some of the batteries are the size of like a large broom cupboard. Some are the size of like a bit of a four-wheel drive type size. And then we got some really big ones that sit in zone substations. Those ones can support thousands of households of an evening. Our four-wheel drive type one is probably about the size of like 40 odd household batteries that you might see and hear about. And then our broom cupboard types, support maybe upwards of 10. Those broom cupboards can either be on the ground, or lately we've been sticking them in the air. So you might need to walk around and look in the air in some of these areas, and you might see one of what we call a pole top community battery.
So talk to me about your role at Origin looking after community batteries and what role Origin plays in community batteries.
So my role here is just to lead a small team to look at these community batteries around what we call the national electricity market. We've got around about 100 odd of these batteries, and we control and orchestrate these batteries. And when I say orchestrate, I mean we tell it when to charge from the network and when to discharge from the network. We like these batteries to sort of charge during the day. So there's lots of new renewable in the system during the middle of the day, particularly coming from solar. So that's when prices are kind of pretty cheap. So we fill the battery up on those cheaper prices, and then in the evening we tell that battery to dispatch, and it fills the local network with the energy that it's stored. Prices are generally high because demand's high. People have come home from work, they've got their cookers on, air cons are going on, and so prices are higher. That creates value, and it's that value that we then share with the local residents in form of sort of rebates on their bills. We probably started a couple of years ago now. I think our first battery launched maybe about 2 years ago in Bungarraby in Western Sydney with our Endeavour Network friends. And since that time, we've now probably got over 100 odd batteries that we're operating or orchestrating, as I previously mentioned. They range in areas up at Ipswich in Brisbane. We've got 35 odd batteries that are up there. We've got batteries down in Armidale and Wagga and Bathurst and Dubbo. We've got batteries now down the south coast of New South Wales, and we've got some significantly large batteries and areas opening up on the Central Coast, Newcastle, Peats Ridge, and then sort of again Western Sydney there. So the batteries that are going out is increasing exponentially, and that's really exciting, keeping pace with that. And then the customers are jumping on those as well. So some of the older batteries that we've had out for a while, some of those areas have maxed out a little bit, but most of our areas we've got capacity. Customers can come, they can sign up, and we're looking forward to growing that customer base so that we can share those benefits more broadly.
Okay, so a Australian household might connect to their local community battery, and do they have to give energy to get energy, or can they just take it? How does it work? It sounds too good to be true.
The battery just sits in the local street, and it'll absorb energy from the local poles and wires. So some of the energies come from houses with solar, and that's distributing, pushing electrons out into the network. Other houses in that street are non-solar. So, but it doesn't matter whether you got solar or you don't have solar. In the end, that battery will create value, and everyone in that local community should be able to share in that value. So renters, apartment dwellers, people that own homes that haven't actually yet been able to buy solar or have the opportunity to participate in the transition so far, get an opportunity through a community battery to share in some of those benefits that this technology bring in the transition.
And then that translates to a rebate on their energy bill.
Correct, yes.
What kind of rebate are we looking at? If you connect to your battery and you use a bit of that renewable in the evening, what can that look like for a household's bottom line?
Yeah, so for upwards around between $120 to $170 odd dollars a year in certain areas, and then sometimes if you bring a bit of solar yourself, then that can creep up over $200. So that's an annual rebate, and we pay that out every month. Just turns up on the electricity bill, and then the customers can also have knowledge that they're also participating in the transition, helping renewables come into the system.
So how many of these batteries is Origin involved in? Are they all the same, or are there differences between them? And what sort of capacity are we looking at if people are thinking about?
As I mentioned, between that broom cupboard and the four-wheel drive and the large ones, so we probably operate around about 100 odd of these batteries up and down the eastern seaboard across 7 different what we call distribution networks. And those different sizes will support different geographies around those batteries. The larger the battery, the larger the geography that can support. So we've recently just launched some large batteries in the Central Coast and Western Sydney areas in Bankstown, Peats Ridge and Cooranbong. These batteries are rather large, and they can support upwards of 5,000 customers each. So while we've just commenced recruiting customers to those batteries, there's plenty of space on those batteries for people to get involved. Other batteries that have been around sort of a longer period of time and geography, some of those have maxed out, and because the batteries unfortunately do have a limited capacity, but we have lots of areas that there's still plenty of room for customers to come and join and try and share in the benefits of the transition.
So why do we need community batteries? What role does this play as part of the transition to renewable?
So the technology's there. The renewables are in the system. We need to be able to store those renewables and then distribute those into the evening peaks. So community batteries have a role to play in that space, a beautiful role to play actually. Helps the networks with managing what they need to do, and at the same time delivers benefits to customers who are also sticking behind the meter batteries in. Well, why couldn't you do that at a community level? So the batteries service that purpose as well, creates the value, and then allows the local residents to participate, particularly those that can't afford or don't have the time, or it doesn't suit for those that have their solar and their own battery. And renters, apartment dwellers and homes without solar can participate as well and proactively contribute to the transition.
So we've heard a lot in previous episodes as well about the home battery aspect of renewables. How does the community battery tie in with that, or maybe differ from that?
Well, in a lot of our work, we've really designed that experience for the community battery to be kind of just like a behind-the-meter battery, but without a lot of the hassle of doing that yourself. You don't get as much capacity because we have to share that capacity as far and broad as we can. So the home batteries have their place for those customers who want a lot of capacity there.
So how simple is it to connect? Are there any barriers to it? Is it a physical connection that needs to be undertaken by somebody technical, or is it sort of something that's done behind the scenes?
Yeah, so the hard work's done. So it's literally as simple as a couple of clicks. Come through our web page, and we'll explain a bit more detail around what we're offering, and then customers will just submit an expression of interest. If you're in area, which is the area defined around the battery and the battery's reach, and there's enough capacity on that battery to accept more customers, then you're good to go. So all like I said, all that hard work around, you don't have to go if everyone's trying to put in a behind the meter battery in yourself, you've got to go pick the technology, you've got to get the battery, you've got to get the installers, you've got to get them to turn up, you've got to get the electrician to get it mapped in. All that's taken away from the household.
So for an eligible household, let's say that you're in an eligible area, you can sign up to this whether you have solar or not, whether you own or not. This is available to all kinds of households. Is that right?
That's right, Emma. So if you're in the geographic area, then that's step one. And then after that, it doesn't matter if you have solar or don't have solar, you're eligible to participate. So customers who do have solar, they're contributing some of that energy into the system. They'll get a rebate on top of what they get for their solar exports that they do today. But for non-solar customers, well, why should they miss out? So renters, apartment dwellers and households that haven't been able to put on solar or participate in behind the meter batteries, they'll also get the opportunity to earn rebates on their electricity bills by participating in the program.
Amazing. So are we seeing people, climbing over each other to get on board? What sort of capacity do we have left if people are thinking about heading home and signing up?
Yeah, so some of our the batteries we've had sort of out for a while, some of those have maxed out and we can't take any more customers onto that, which is great. Those batteries are operating as we hope. Some of our newer ones, so there's some pretty big areas that we've just opened up. There are significant numbers now of available spots for customers to jump on board and start to get some of the benefits of what the networks and ourselves are putting together here.
Fantastic. David, I think you've given a lot of people a lot to think about in terms of their community battery, and it sounds like it's going to be a really interesting way for more people to be part of that transition to renewables. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Emma. Thank you for having me.
So What is the show that helps you with tips and tricks on how you can take control of your energy bills. Brought to you by Origin. If you'd like to find out more about community batteries, there's more information in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this chat, hit follow in the podcast app you're in right now, or have a look back through some of our past episodes. Catch you next time.